You're listening to the Human Music Podcast. Woo!
You reach a certain set of skill that you become kind of precious about like what you show to the world, because you're like, I think that like this, like just like what you were talking about, like you become discerning enough that you're like, oh, I could do that. Like I could present this thing in a cooler way. But like real people that are doing it know that getting to that point where they're doing it really well only happens through failure and learning and growing. And like the amateur really wants to hold on to everything as so precious because they don't want to lose the ego points presenting something that isn't perfect. And like one thing that I've really been trying to focus on for myself is like, no, dude, like that's okay. Like I'm going to release something that like the snare is half a dB too loud, or like that post on social media last week, like, yeah, it was a little boring, but like, I'm not like, if I keep being so concerned with everything being perfect, like I'm never going to get to that next level. Like I have to start doing all this shit. Like, yep, I fucked that up. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Good data point. Glad that I got that out of the way when no one was watching.
Totally. Man, Kill the Noise had a tweet that he posted a while back that really stuck with me, where he said, people don't listen to music for perfection. They listen to it for story.
Yeah.
That's what they care about, is the evolution of where you came. Like this song that you're going to put out is going to hold more weight every single year as long as you keep consisting, because now it's not the release coming out Friday, which is exciting, but like the level of excitement above that is when you have that super fan 5 years down the road and they're like, I want to know what Riff Kenny released in 2020 during the quarantine. What was he up to? You know, and they see that song and maybe it's their favorite song. Maybe they fucking hate it. Who knows? Maybe it's in the middle. Maybe it's meh, but it becomes an invaluable part of this like longer timeline. And I think a lot of producers that I've worked with don't really think about it on that scale, and it totally shifts the way you operate.
Yeah. I mean, it's taken a step back for me for sure to be like, you know, because like I said, it's like one of those things, like you just want to protect the like the sense of perfection you think you could achieve. And like that shit doesn't fucking happen unless you just like start taking steps and failing. Like your perfect sense of what you could be in your head will literally never exist unless you put out some shit that maybe is like 95% or 85%, or like not even just releasing music, like putting yourself out there. Like doing this podcast, one of my first thoughts was like, you know, is everything that I say going to be relevant to people, and are they going to care? Or is this going to flop and I'm going to look stupid? Like that is like the fucking antithesis of what you should be doing. And like, it's really natural for every single person who takes pride in their work to have that thought, but like, it's just not productive. It will not get you there. It will not.
Especially when it ties in with your ego.
Yeah, man. I actually wrote for the Say My Name cipher that's dropping, and I got interviewed as the curator of it, and like half of my interview ended up being about the ego, which is funny because it was like the Say My Name cipher, and then my track ended up getting cut by Dylan at the end. And looking back on it, it's like, oh yeah, I can see all these fatal flaws in the track, and I was just trying to polish that turd as hard as I could. Dylan even used the phrase beating a dead horse at one time. But I got to go into it on the interview. Like, the cool thing is I can already find the gratitude for this. Like, and the gratitude is the way through the quote unquote, this sucks moment to the lesson that actually helps you move forward and take that next step up the mountain. It's like knowing that, like, you know, we talk about resistance, the war of art, you know, there's this resistance, and I think that resistance actually is our ego resisting our elevation, because it knows that as soon as we elevate, that version of the ego necessarily will and must die. And we have a new one. And that's the funny thing, is the ego is that fragile. It will die at the drop of a hat. But the cool thing is, it's also the phoenix. It will always come right back, no matter how much acid you take. It's going to come back. No matter how ego dissolved you get today, you're going to look up and be like, wow, my ego really dissolved today. Oh, yeah, that's the new one. It's back. But the cool thing is, after every ego death, the ego comes back with like one piece of bullshit that the world heaped on us burnt off.
Yeah.
And it's like a little bit more pure and a little closer to like a rational tool that we can use to, you know, take on the world and be like, yeah, you know what? I am good enough to make the attempt. And no, I'm never going to be perfect enough to be perfect. So right here, right now is where I'm going to make every attempt and not think that far in the future. But like, remember, like, yes, the ego is not necessarily a bad thing. It's not necessarily a good thing. It's a thing that you don't get to get rid of while you're still alive. And it definitely needs to get burned to the ground on a regular basis for any real progress to happen.
Yeah,
100%. Totally. You need to cultivate a really healthy relationship with it. One, to be arrogant / confident enough to like stand up for your music and be like, this is the fucking shit. I believe in it. And obviously get to that skill level. But it takes that level to be like Kanye West it in a sense and just be like, I'm fucking genius. This shit's amazing, you know? And like, also though, to have the humility to come back the next day. And if your opinion's not the same, to be like, fuck, maybe it was like the bit of joint I smoked earlier. Maybe it was, you know, the nice thing my girl said to me that got me in a great mood. Maybe it was, you know, the circumstance that I was listening to this. And then you have to really reassess. Like, you have to have that humility aspect of being savage to your own work and like tearing it down when need be, but also gaining the confidence from that to be like, all right, I know what went into this. I know at least I have some creative intuition enough that it deserves people's attention and the world needs to hear it. So it's like balancing those two sides, because one can really quickly lead to distasteful arrogance, or on the other side, it can lead to fucking hating everything you've done or having self-confidence issues. So yeah, it's really important.
Yeah, falling off either side of this bridge sounds like a bad move. Let's hang out on the bridge in the middle with a good balance of healthy, strong self-confidence and also realistic reassessment of our goals with the intention of growing.
It is such a narrow bridge. It is so...
Did I say bridge? I meant tightrope.
It is so hard to nail that. It's something that like we all work towards all the time because it is so hard to balance those. Just like you said, like breaking down your own work to the point where you know that you can make it great. But then once you've broken it down enough, then also having the confidence to be like, I know this is great and I should stand behind it. And when I release this and play it for my friends, I shouldn't sit there with my head down like, fuck, I actually hate this. Like, no, you should be happy with it. But like, oh, it's so hard to get all of that nailed. Like, it's so hard.
Human Music Podcast. I like it.